Alright, response to video to 2 Remy videos. You know, I like Remy, I respect Remy, we've had our fights and all that kind of stuff, but I'm not going to go insane about what he said, but I think what he said was beneath him. Okay, he said, you know, I don't understand the, you know, he justified what Jonesr did over the Holocaust issue, which all started with To Be Serious's overreaction. She, you know, and she's another one, she lied about being Jewish. Which, you know, is pretty disgusting in my opinion. You know, and then everybody caught on to that sympathy, and that's how the whole thing started with the, whatever, the Southern guy, and me and him didn't get along because of it, and a lot of fucking things happened because of that bullshit. And so, this isn't some kind of, oh yeah, Gary deserved that completely preposterous overreaction. Gary asked for it. That's a pile of shit. I didn't make any insane claims about the Holocaust. So, Remy, I'll have to ask you to directly answer these questions. Alright? How many people were exterminated in gas chambers from whatever, 1930 to 1945 or whatever? We'll just make it as broad a range as possible. So how many millions of people were deliberately assassinated in a gas chamber? Was the policy from its origin intended to exterminate the Jewish race? Was that what those camps were built to do from the very beginning? From even, let's go all the way back to when, well, let's not, but you know, look, I made videos, and I haven't deleted mine like everybody else has deleted theirs, defining what I found as being intellectually, incomprehensibly, not inconsistent points been made about the Holocaust, and why people did what they did and the whole thing. But I've also stated quite clearly, and you kind of just mocked it as if that's not the substance of the Holocaust, that the fucking the worst act wasn't Adolf Hitler. The worst act was, and started with, people saying Jew, you know, non-Jew only. All right, that's basically what it started. It non-Jew only. Let's segregate them. Let's get them out of society because they're evil, because they've ruined our world and our economy, and they blame them for everything. They were the scapegoat, just like we've had that same bullshit in this country with race and ethnicity. And I mean, you know, this whole, you know, this whole idea that you know history and that you're certain is just such a crock of shit. I mean, if World War II went the wrong way with the Japanese, what do you think would have might have happened to the people in the internment camps in California, those Japanese people? You know, and then would it be that it was a deliberate extermination policy? So when we were at the Japanese Nuremberg trials, it was a deliberate extermination policy right from the beginning. I mean, that's perfectly perceivable as being the reality. I mean, look at the idiotic propaganda that's out there that's called history. I mean, there's people who will argue about we got into the war with the Japanese because the Japanese were eating the Chinese. It's not that they were invading the Chinese, they were eating them. People will make this fucking argument, and that's why we had to go to war with the Japanese and embargo them, is because they were eating the Chinese people. I mean, you know, I mean, just fuck you saying, you know, you have the truth, because that's exactly what was going on before. It's like everybody has to accept this version of the history, this version of the reality, and anybody who deviates any slight bit is going to get called an anti-Semite and a Holocaust denier. And that was a pile of shit. It had nothing to do with what I was saying. I wasn't diminishing the horror of the Holocaust one tiny bit. All I was doing was saying that some of this fucking rhetoric is excessive. So fuck you on that score. Enough said. Shit, I didn't put the timer on. Damn it, 4:20. Okay, gotta watch it. So anyway, then your second video was on the utilitarianism thing, and so you gave us the cat story, which is, you know, it's a nice little personal story. But yeah, that's what life is. Life is these equations. And you can keep talking like human life is something incredibly special and different than all these other animals that are living out in this nature thing, and that somehow you think that's all purposeful somehow. All that carnage it makes sense because the molecule is doing the molecule thing. I don't know exactly how you would describe it, but you know, if humans never existed, would you sit there and justify it all? I mean, it's like having a laboratory experiment, you know, and it's like nobody's in the lab, nothing can be accomplished with the experiment, and it just keeps, it's like there's a machine, and it breeds the rats, and it puts them in the maze, and it cleans up the dead, and puts them in a cesspool, and breeds more rats, and feeds them the dead rats with, you know, special Soylent and green cheese. You know, would you sit there and just let them experiment continue? I mean, even though you know, the rats are just being manipulated by this system, I mean, we're just being manipulated by biology. And you want to keep arguing that we're doing something grander. Well, we're not doing anything grander. We're being controlled by biology. And so the important elements in here is you're saying that utilitarianism is all there is. There's no other way of looking at any equation, but in a functional way. Find out what the values are and then measure them on a scale and try to do the right thing based on the positive and the negative values. So we disagree on the values, so that's why we can't do the utilitarianism thing, is because we can't agree on what's valuable. But that's the only reason why we're not doing it. We do it everywhere we do agree. When we agree on the values, we do the utilitarian thing. It's only when we disagree on the fundamental values that we don't. So it's just nonsense to say utilitarianism is the bad word. It's not. It's the right concept. It's just we can't make it functional until we have rock-solid definitions of value that can be applied to all people in all circumstances and all that bullshit. And so I'm just trying to make the argument that it's out there. The truth is out there. The values can be defined. It just takes work to do it. It takes refining our understanding of what we are doing here. So you don't like, this all started with the heroin metaphor, because you don't like the idea of your desire being called an addiction. You don't like the idea of life being described as some pointless struggle where you're chasing an elusive desire that you're never going to be able to catch, a dragon you will not catch. That somehow you're satisfiable. And we've made the argument that satisfaction is at best brief. The moment you get it, you're going to be unsatisfied pretty quickly and wanting something else or something different. We spend little time of our conscious experience on this earth saying, I am perfectly comfortable. It's a very small percentage of our life. And so let's evaluate our pleasures, because it's really about the pleasures and the pains. I mean, aren't most of our pleasures derived from relieving tensions and anxieties and negative forces in us? I mean, you pop a pimple, it feels good. You take a shit, it feels good. You orgasm, it feels good. Well, why does it feel good? Because it's releasing all this tension and this crap that we're constantly burdened with, that we live with through life. These little, the stick poking that the DNA molecule is always doing to keep you moving and keep you in the game. And let's see, it's creating a deprivation, saying, I need food, I'm not comfortable, I need food, I need water, I need something. It's always poking you to do something. And you know, you have and we're built to have this delusion. I mean, desire creates the illusion of value. And so, as I just said in the Pyro video, I mean, you're the one with the obligation to demonstrate that your intelligence hasn't been corrupted by this natural tendency for organisms to be very compliant to the DNA and to follow the desire. And so the fact that you have an affinity for it, an attachment to it, is perfectly natural psychologically. But it means nothing intellectually. I mean, if you're going to make an intellectual argument, you have to come up with something better than, you know, I think it's neat, or I want some, or I need some. I mean, that's not a definition of whether or not it's something worth chasing. And so anyway, I mean, I think you were very dismissive, and you didn't make a real great counter argument. You didn't make any counter argument, really. You keep diminishing, you keep saying I'm diminishing the value of pleasure, and I guess I'm going to keep arguing that you're completely ignoring the value of suffering, because as long as it doesn't, as long as no one hits the right, wrong buttons on you, it's okay. I mean, you're okay with cholera and you're okay with a lot of miseries. I mean, maybe I haven't found the misery that you would find just horrible, like, you know, maybe being forced to wear a prom dress, you know, in your history classroom or something. Maybe that would be a humiliation just too much. You couldn't take it. You wouldn't want to live if that's what living meant. So maybe I can describe some circumstance that you're going to find abhorrent enough to say, I wouldn't want to live if I had to endure doing that or experiencing that. Okay, so maybe I haven't found that button yet on you, but I think I can argue that most people have them. Most people know that if I give them a certain scenario and say, you're going to have to endure this for 3 years, and you're going to go through this experience and this horror, and you're going to lose your eyesight and be blind, and you're going to do this, they're going to say, no, please, I really wouldn't want to live under those circumstances, especially if they have to face it as the future prospects. And then that's another game that the DNA plays with it, or at least our psychology plays with us. It's really easy to dismiss it once we've experienced it and it's over. But if it's sitting in front of us, well, then it can scare us, and then it has some meaning. And that's not surprising. So anyway, we're out of time. So till next time.